John, Curly McIlwaine, let's start with that. Why Curly? Why are you called Curly?
Well, I always say the name stuck better than the hair did. There was curls when I was a young fella, and being a couple of John McIlwaines in the house, I was called Wee John or Curly, and the Curly one stuck better. So
It certainly
it's
did. Go
people
on.
who meet me for the first time find it a bit odd, and are reluctant to call me that because they think it's a slur, an insult, or something. But it's a term of endearment, really. I'm quite happy with it.
That's good to know because I was thinking that myself. I wasn't sure if it was okay or
Yeah,
that I
well,
suppose,
that's
but
what
it's
people
a name
think.
from your childhood.
When I joined Facebook at the start, it was on just as John McIlwaine, and there was a few John McIlwaines, and one of the guys said to me, "Look, change it to Curly," and that'll make. And I did, and that sort of set me out from the others.
Well, you're known far and wide just as Curly. People just know you as Curly. You know, everybody knows right away who that is. But I mean, you mentioned there your childhood. Then, can you take me back there and tell me where you were brought up and about your parents?
Well, I was brought up in Cargan, the village of Cargan in Glenravel. My dad worked as a lorry driver delivering beer, and mum was at home all the time. Went to Cargan primary school, St Mary's in Cargan here, and at schoolboy age, I started to play for the local club called McGee's. I wasn't very good, I have to add, but I enjoyed it, and that's where I got the love of the game out.
You're obviously
And
hurling here, not football.
football, that's at Glenravel is a football club. But there's been a tradition now for about 60 years of the local Glenravel boys that had an interest in hurling, especially back then when we didn't have a hurling club, played for Glenarav, which is our neighbours down Waterfoot. And so I did the same. I joined myself and Aidan McNeil. We played actually we joined a good team with a few good players in it, and they won the league and they won the McMullen Cup, which is the under-16 Northampton Hurling Championship, the very first one ever held in 1966. That's played at Facing Atlan. I can honestly say that's the only A competition I ever won.
Tell me about a few of the lads on that team. You mentioned it was a good team.
Well, Alistair Ryan and Charlie McDonald, who at 15 were playing on the Glenara senior team at the time, and they were standout players. Martin McKillop, and there were a few other good players, but we sort of made up the numbers.
What position did you
Small
play?
parish, we were always struggling for numbers, so Aidan was the better hurler than I was, but I got on the team because there wasn't a hell of a lot of others about.
And what position were you?
Well, in that McMullen Cup final, I played full forward and scored 2 goals, but they weren't fearsome shots from 30 yards out. They were one of them actually. I pulled on the ball twice and missed it before I connected on it. And lucky enough, the keeper carried away, turned his arse to me, and that way I ended up scoring. But no, it was good. It was good playing along with them boys.
And sorry, what influence did your parents have on you as regards sport then?
Well, they weren't sporting people. None of them McIlwaines had played well. My dad's cousin Ray had played back in the 30s. But Daddy, although he never played the game, he was a follower. He had a big car which the club used as a taxi, and we went to lots of matches, taking players to games and that sort of thing. And I always, Patrick, my brother, and myself would always got a ride along, and went to the games. That's what sort of established the love of the game.
And your mum as well. I mean, what sort of relationship did you have with them at that time, or how did they influence you in other ways?
Not really in the sporting way, Mommy's brother, Paddy McToll, had played in the Glenravel teams in the 50s. He was a tidy footballer, but she never had any real interest in it. And strange thing is, I married into a family. My wife Bernice in Ballycastle, and her father was a good hurler and won championships for the town. But none of them had any interest in it. and still have no interest. None of them ever went to a match in my time. You know, I found it strange, you know, because they were brought up, their dad was, and their Uncle John, very good hurlers. But I sort of inherited the love of Ballycastle, the hurling, and them I would follow at first division level, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely a love there for the black and amber of Ballycastle. That's been there all the way through since then.
Oh, very much so, yes. And I was lucky enough to be sort of really getting into it when they had the good team that came through from the mid-70s on through to the mid-80s.
Well, then you mentioned that. I'm going to take this opportunity to throw in a wee hand grenade early on here, a wee difficult question for you, because I asked a few people for questions, and this was a nice one here. It says they know you're a big Ballycastle fan, and they want to know who you would say is the best Ballycastle player. And they reckon you'll probably say Eddie Donnelly. But
yes, they're right.
but they're kind of hoping that you'll say Paul McKillen. But obviously they're all great players.
Well, a close second, I have to say, but Eddie was the best. I always said I had to pick a team with the best team I ever seen from anywhere. Like Eddie'd only be the first man on it. And oh yeah, Paul McKillen and Peter Boyle, who emigrated to America when he was still in his prime, was a big loss to the town. He was another great player, but the town was full of great players, like, especially that team.
Tell me what set Eddie apart.
Oh, just he was big, he was strong, skillful, and he never went round, he always went through. The Donnellys were all big, strong men, you know. Eddie was just exceptional. And him and Kevin played in the Antrim team that won the All-Ireland Intermediate in 1970, 50 years ago. And the two younger brothers, Desi and Brian, played on the team that reached the All-Ireland in 89, you know, so strong family.
And then there's some of the the Donnellys now. I mean, young Matthew Donnelly. I mean, he's a big fella.
Yeah, big strong man and really good hurler, part of the current team.
So,
but the cushion always used to call me Curly Donnelly, but I always thought it was a bit biased towards him. But actually, in those days, I wasn't reporting; I was only taking photographs, you know. No, I must say now I have a great love for all the clubs in Antrim. The job I do, I'm going round and I'm mixing with all them boys. I've done a whole pile of their weddings, you know, and all the clubs. And, you know, if an Antrim team once they get to Antrim, I'm 100% behind them. Like.
But it's not just the black and amber in Antrim. The black and amber in Kilkenny. Now,
yeah,
some people might know this. Some people do, but a lot of people might not as well. I mean, the big connection that you have with Kilkenny. I mean, somebody said you've done like every league and championship game in Kilkenny for about 10 years. You've done
well. I've done most of the championship games since Cody's took over in '99. I've done all the Croke Park games and a good few of the other ones as well, like league finals and things like that. But because I was taking photos at home, I wasn't always able to get away, you know. But I struck up a bond with them, you know. We meeting guys, you know, in situations after they won the All-Ireland and, you know, you ran along with them. They go for a cup of tea and a beer or two afterwards, you know, and I was always invited in. And I ended up, I actually photographed a good few of the team's weddings. Of the 03 team, I photographed 13 of the panel, 13 of their weddings, you know. And of course, it was just like a child in a sweet shop, you know, just like these absolute heroes, like, you know, like Henry and Andy Comerford and all of that team nearly. They were all superstars.
Where did that exactly start? You sort of said like it developed, but I mean, at what point? I mean, I have to point out the obvious. Like Ballycastle is a long way from Kilkenny. I mean, we've drawn the connection with the colours, like, but I mean, you're up there. I mean, why would somebody?
I went to my first final in '72, And I went with guys who were supporting Cork. They were playing Kilkenny in that final. And I went in thinking, well, I'll support Cork as well. I had no real hard and fast. But Cork were hammering them at half time or beating them by 8 points. And I started to feel sorry for Kilkenny and started to shout for them in the second half. And of course, they come back and won by 8. And that was it, cemented from then on. And of course, the Black and Amber, like lots of people in Antrim, Lockheed boys would support Cork, Cushendall would support Galway. In the early days, that was more the case. Now it's not just as hard fast as that. But and then I went to all the Kilkenny, went to all the All-Irelands up to, this would have been my 49th year in a row. It may not happen now, but around about the early 80s, I started to get in when it was covering, no, I tell a lie there, the early 90s, after I did the Antrim game in 89, was in, and I started to be at that time, I got in to cover games, other counties were playing. And I did a few Kilkenny games, and I would send photos to the Kilkenny people. It so happens in 99, whenever Cody took over that time, the guy who had been doing the photos for them had retired. And the opportunity was there, and John Knox, who was the sports editor, asked me if I would come on board, and I did a few finals and just worked from there, and then I did all the championship games. And that's how I get my press accreditation through, it was the Kilkenny people.
But there must have been points where people sort of heard your accent. I mean, I know it myself from down south a lot, and they're going, he's with the Kilkenny people and he's from Ballycastle. I mean, do you know?
Not from Ballycastle and Glenravel. I support it. No. Oh no, there's a lot of that, less and less of it now because boys are from all over the place are covering sport,
And then tell me how you ended up doing like the first wedding. They all followed after that.
Brian McIlwaine was up at the Ballycastle dinner. Can't remember, it was early 90s anyway, him and Tracy Millay, who ended up marrying. They said they had, we'll get chatting about their wedding, and they said, no, we don't have a photographer. And I said, well, here, I'll do it for you. And down I went and did it for them, and of course all the other guys were there. And then Peter Barry rang me up a couple of months after the wedding and said, would you do mine? And so on and so forth, and that's the way it went. And then, of course, I was doing a few others in Kilkenny as well, like that weren't herders, but maybe connected to herders, like that been there. So I ended up, I did a good few down
there. The McNamee Awards from the GAA, they described, the press release described you as long-serving Kilkenny people photographer, which is a little bit strange for us up here to imagine that you're connected with them. But
that's true. I can't mind what year that was now. I won that.
I think enough, 2016, it says best photo for the Ulster Club final, Clockmills against Owenrua, and it says something about, I don't know the image, but it says a ghostly image of one of the world's fastest field sports captures the action in a perfect form in conditions which most other photographers would have packed up and left.
It was a very foggy day, and I just get this image of two boys going up for the ball. It's not actually one of my favourite photos, but I put it online at the time, and I got a lot of likes for it. People were, so I actually entered that along with a couple of others, and was surprised really when I won it. I've had a lot better photos that never won anything, but it's in the eye of the beholder. That's the thing about entering competitions. But it's the only All-Ireland medal I'm ever likely to get, so I was very glad to get it.
Well, you mentioned there that there's others you prefer. Then, I mean, why didn't you particularly like that one, and what other?
No, just that was, I don't know. I just have a lot of other better photos. Probably my favourite is the one that won the 2013 Sports Photo of the Year with it was St John's and Cushendall playing up in Hannahstown, and one of the hurls bragging, and that was. But you need a lot of luck to get good photo. It's not always skill, skill plays a bit of a part, and luck plays a massive part. Just to happen to get the right time, and in that case it was and even with that, was probably my favourite photo ever, but there were still things about it that could have been better, you know. You
Like
keep
what?
going and keep going. Well, just there was one of the players in it that wasn't really in the action. He was sort of between me and the action. You know, it would have been better if he hadn't been in it. But overall, no, I would settle for that. If I got one like that every day, I'd be happy.
And that was an image of sticks breaking.
Six breaking, yeah. Uh-huh.
And you like that kind of photograph. Are there any other kind of photographs that you like, or do you go for particular kind of photos deliberately?
No, well, that's the thing I really like is the ones under the dropping ball, you know, and the boys pulling the hurls back, and that's, you know, it's not that often you get it. You know, you maybe have to run and get it 2 or 3 days in a row, but it's no, it's I like that. I like that sort of photo.
But when
Another
you,
one I got, Tommy Walsh in the 2013 final, I think it was, or 14, rising to catch a ball above, I think, Porrick Mar, another real favourite of mine, you know. And strange enough, a friend of mine was sitting beside me that day working for Sports File, and he got exactly the same shot. I've never seen two photos as alike in my life, just the exact same instant. But,
yeah, because a lot of people would see lots of photographers along the side and think, why they need so many, but you're all doing different things.
that's right, different, yeah, exactly. The likes of Sports File with maybe 5 or 6 photographers and all there, and info as well, like, you know, they get great images, like I must say, top class.
Yeah, they have them all over the ground. They're not all sitting together.
Working with those top men, like, you know, you're learning something every day from them.
Well, if you could tell me about that, I mean, some of your contemporaries, I mean, I know in the north here, you know, you have Seamus Loughran and Margaret McLaughlin and Mary Burke, Anne McManus, Mal McCann, Hugh Russell, you know, Brendan Murphy, of course, I remember him in the Irish News, you know, those sort of guys. But then you're working at a national level too. I mean, who have you learned, should we put it that way, who have you learned from down the years?
Well, nearly any of the top men down there, the people you mentioned there are all top class. A few other boys that work along with me as well, a boy Calvin McCusker, who's just an amateur photographer. Sean Paul McKillop, who played, he was a member of the panel in '89. Sean Paul, good photographer, you know, there's a pile of good ones about. But nearly any of the info or Sports File guys are all top men. Like, and Ray McManus himself, of course, top of the pile and very helpful sort of a man. If I ever need anything, he's the first man I would turn to, and he never lets me down.
Can you go back to the start, how you got into photography?
Yeah, a strange route into photography. I was actually chairman of the Glens Dart League, which people will find a bit strange, but I was into darts in a big way. It's probably the only sport I was ever half decent at. And I was chairman of the Glens League, and I was doing reports for the local paper, the Ballymena Guardian, but we could never get a photographer to come out and take photos. We were covering finals and that sort of thing. So I bought a second-hand camera and started to take photos at dart matches, and that slowly developed into an interest in photography. And I'd always been interested in covering hurling anyway, or going to hurling. So I took photos over the wire matches, and up to about 82 or 83, then I started to get inside the wire and take photos, but I was only taking them for myself. And then the man, Jim Smith, here in Antrim, who has covered GA and the Ballymena Guardian for years, and I would have took the photos and then sent them to Jim, and he used them in the Guardian at that time. And just slowly but surely, but still playing at this time. And once I retired, from the football, I started to cover more games, and then started 1987. There's a wee paper in North Antrim. My brother actually used to work to them, Colin, as a photographer long before I took photos. and they had sort of gone out of existence. So I rang them up and said, look, I'd like to start and do coverage of GA in Northampton if you're interested. And they said, yeah, we're all for it. And I did the 87 final, Cushendall and Rossa in Belfast, and sent it to them, got the Chronicle on the Wednesday, and got it. There was nothing in it. But that particular day I was over in Portland, and I bought the Mid-Ulster Observer. And here they'd used it in it, like full page, and that was me hooked. And from then on, I did that for years up until 1994. I started full time with the Ballymena Times, and I was with them for 25 years. So I had to give up the Chronicle. And,
just go back a step or two there, and I will just over a couple of things there. First of all, what was your biggest checkout in darts?
Oh, well, I've done that, 170 a few times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, I've done well. When the strange thing was when I was playing darts, I had to practice all the time. It was no use. There's some boys could come along to a match every week and never threw any and were brilliant at it. I was the opposite. I spent hours and hours.
20 treble, 20 bullseye finish.
Oh, aye.
So you just nonchalantly drop that in there, like that's like what people do.
Oh no, I've done well. Anybody throwing at a decent level in the league have done that at some time. You weren't doing it very often. But
and then the actual photographing. I mean, I imagine you're pretty limited on what you can photograph of darts. There aren't many angles. So how did you sort of get a bit of a bug there to do this? Was it, as you mentioned there, that you actually enjoyed the kick out of seeing your photos in the paper? Was that it?
That was a big thing, yes. And that was only me taking dart teams, and maybe some boy sitting with a pint glass on top of another boy's head, But then I turned my attic into a dark room and I started to develop photos myself. And once I got started with the Ballymena Chronicle in '87, then when I was doing games, I really got into it in a big way then. Because I was coming home at night up into the dark room and develop the photos and get them away the next day up to Dungannon, where the Malm crowd that did all the newspapers at that time.
There's a lot of young people now going, what's he doing in a dark room in the attic? But they don't understand because we've all got their iPhones now. They don't know what that's about. But you're going into the attic and you're using chemicals. And you're first of all, you're taking pictures at the game. You're having to go home, maybe get your dinner. Then you're taking the film out. Then you're going through. Then you're developing these onto paper. And then you're seeing what they're like. And then you've got to drive down the next day to Dungannon. I mean, that's incredible when you think of the way it is now.
Yeah, well, actually, I had a friend down in Armoy who worked in Cookstown, Jerry Burns, and I used to go down on Monday night and leave them with Jerry, and he would drop them into their office on a Tuesday morning in Cookstown, and then they picked it up there, But I did drive to Dungannon a good few times, I have to say.
But that process sounds like it's from, dare I say, the dark ages. It's
yeah.
And there must have been a lot of rushes and sort of times when you're up against it or whatever, but the process is just so different than it is now.
So different. Digital just changed things dramatically. Actually, during this lockdown, I'm scanning old negatives, that photos that I took back then, photos that I don't even remember taking, But there's putting a lot of them up on Facebook, and there's great interest in it, But no, it was totally. If you went to a game there, if you shot 3 rolls of film, which is 108 pictures, you thought you were being extravagant, mostly you maybe shoot 1 or 2, but you could shoot. Now at a game I come in shooting 1,500 photos, maybe 2,000 at some games.
Have you ever found that you would take a load of pictures and not realize at the time it was a great picture? I mean, and later on you'd find, or even now, you're maybe you've discovered some in the last couple of months in this lockdown. I mean, you mentioned there about taking a picture of a guy maybe with a pint on his head. You obviously like that sort of quirky thing that tells the sort of the culture, the crack, the story. It's not just the sort of the one Tommy Welsh jumping up to the ball.
Funny, looking back at the photos, the action stuff I took back then, it's actually the photos I maybe took of people in the crowd that are of more interest looking back at them. And you know, people react to that for the photos I put up. If you put up an action shot, it'll generally be the people that are in the photo that are really interested in it. But if you put up a crowd shot, everybody's looking to see. Like 89, for example, you know, photos of the crowd in 89, everybody loves looking through them and see if they're in it and tagging each other. Oh, there's such and such a one.
Well, you must have come across ones in the last while, as you say, from your old pictures, and there's people who have passed away and stuff. You know, you're going back a long way.
Oh,
You know,
a lot of that.
never throw out a picture because there's always a value in it somewhere.
Oh, always, yeah. Oh no, there's, you know, even photos that I'm putting up at the minute from here in Dunravel. We're on a, you know, like a civic week every year in August from about 2000 on, and there was lots of events on, you know, during the week, and I would have went along and took candid shots at them. It's amazing the interest there is in that, people looking back and seeing themselves in it and seeing their friends. And as you say, people that have passed away, which makes it even more emotional, that, you know. But
well, what's the strangest request you've had, or something that somebody has spotted in a photograph? It could have been somebody, I don't know, I mean, I get the odd request from some guy who's working in construction in New Zealand, and he's saying, I played in a game 10 years ago, send me the video. You know, he's desperate to see it, you know.
yeah, well, you do get lots of ones now. I've found that since I started this. Did you by any chance cover the minor final in '84? I played corner forward, and in some cases, it's nice to go back and actually find that you had a photo of the person. I get great satisfaction out of that. But a good lot of the time, no, you know, you wouldn't have any from them. You know, especially, you know, as I say, back then I wasn't taking nearly as many shots at the game as I would have. There's plenty of the likes of the Starmen at Clip, not, you know, but there's other boys that maybe never get as many photos. Forwards always seem to fare better because I'm at the end they're attacking, you know, generally the way it's done. And
well, that takes me to, I mean, where do you position yourself? Where do you tend to position yourself then?
well, at club games, thankfully, and still go along the side, I would sit along the sideline about the 50-yard line. That way it can cover a wee bit of both ends. But in Croke Park, you're confined. You have to stay at one end. You can change at half time if you want, but you're not allowed to move about. And in Croke Park, just where the RT boys band comes out there, I sit in that corner for most of the last 10, 15 years now. That's sort of my slot, and it works well. You're shooting down into the stand, shooting from the other end. It's all right if Hill 16 is full. You have a good crowd in the background, but you're shooting into empty terrace, and it doesn't make as good a shot.
I think most people would think, oh, you're probably behind the goals or to the side of the goals there somewhere. So you have a different angle, and you're probably closer to the managers and things there, and what's going on. So you get lots of.
I sit out near the corner so I can get the manager down the line. You know, he's generally fairly active. In Cody's case, he's always active. But you're also getting, you know, well down the field with the 400 lens, and you're still far enough back to get a bit of action around the goal mouth.
Look at you, your 400 lens after starting in the darts all them years ago in the dark room and all that, and now you have a 400 lens. What sort of relationship would you have with Cody then?
Always friendly, but never, you know, he would never go past without speaking. He's always good crack and all, but wouldn't say, you know, it's not close or anything, you know, just always mannerly and good. The odd occasion now, I've been at a function with him when James Stephens won the championship in Kilkenny, you know. I've been up in the club when he was in it, and he sort of let his hair down a wee bit more, you know. But he's so focused along the line, like he, you know, he sees only what's going on in front of him. He would chat with you after the game, you know, shake hands, that sort of thing. But, oh, he's a very special man. He's
Would he ever talk hurling as such to you? You know, would he ask you what you
thought? I generally would be hurling, like, you know.
No, I don't mean just generally like who won or whatever, but would you have a certain level of talking to him that you understand each other, or would he respect your opinion on what was going on in the game?
Well, I don't know about that now. No, No, I think he knows a wee bit more about it than me. It's funny, Martin Comerford was his assistant. Martin always would. When he managed the under-21 teams, I was down covering a couple of finals, and they would come around the field and they'd come over. Curly, if you see anything you think we should be doing, let me know. Of course, I wasn't going to tell him anything, you know what I mean? It's just strange how they make up the different boys. Martin's a great lad. Great.
Yeah, but I mean, I would imagine that a manager or a coach who asks that, it's maybe a slight sign of weakness, or is it a sign of
no, I don't know. No.
Which way would you look at that?
It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's nerves at the time, just something to do or something to say.
Yeah, I suppose they're all different. But and then the lads, I mean, you must have had some great rapport with all the boys, even from the likes of the weddings. I mean, is there any particular photo that you remember was really funny or that they loved from the weddings that jumps out,
No, well, I would always, I would stay over the night and I would be there for the reception at night. I would always point a photograph and all the other hurlers, that sort of, I like doing that, but one of the weddings I done, Nigel Skehan, who he didn't play county, he played for Loughlin Gales and top scorer for them for a year or two. But I did Nigel's, and at the wedding, Owen Kelly was there because Owen's brother was the best man at the wedding, and DJ was there. So I got two of them along with Nigel, which I always liked. I thought it was a great shot to have.
But was there any little quirky sort of thing you got them off guard or doing in any of the weddings that was sort of like a bit different than the obvious one?
No, I can really recall. We'll have to study that one out.
Well, let me ask you something completely different then. I mean, you're talking there about Loughlin Gales and James Stephens. I mean, I've filmed a couple of games down there as well, and Kilkenny club hurling. From what you've seen of it down the years, how does it compare with Antrim club hurling, say at a championship level?
It's very similar actually. Only they have a lot more teams at that level, whereas we have 3 or 4. But our top 3 or 4, will mix it with them. Peter Barry always made that point to me. This before James Stephens went a lot of years without winning a championship in '95 when they won it. I remember him saying to me before that, he said, God, I wish we had a team like Dunloy. He was a big fan of them. And club hurling, I've said this to a lot of boys up here, and they all sort of laugh at me and say, but like the top teams in Antrim playing each other as good as any county, you'll get the odd exceptional team coming through all right. But no, Antrim teams have done well down the years. To me, that was always the favourite time of year, that starting out again, and there's an Antrim team in an All-Ireland semi-final, regardless of who they were, I have so many great friends on all them teams. I was 100% behind them.
Well, can you pick out a few of those at club level, the All-Irelands in particular, and the big wins, and, there's not that many of them, but they were all very memorable.
All memorable. Like Dunloy were outstanding in semi-finals. They could never, unfortunately, reproduce it in the final. But the day they did, they were unlucky that they had Burr beaten in the first half playing into the breeze. But some of their semi-final displays, the one against Mount Sion, to me, was one of the great club games. It was just fantastic. And the nerves at the last when Alistair Elliott was taking a free to win it was just, I could hardly hold the camera. It was just humbling. And
they got that involved in it.
Oh, I so involved in it. I just was shaking at the last, And Lough Keels won over in the Pierce. And the way they done it, like they should have had the Pierce out of sight, a normal time. And I was a wee bit down along the line that day in Parnell Park, and there was a bit of banter with one of the Piercing stick men, and he said to me, we always come good at the last, we come good at the last. And lo and behold, they did come back and we're lucky to get level. And he said to me, you watch us now, we'll do it. and lucky to beat 9-1 in extra time. You know, it's just magic.
Sweet.
Fantastic. And that was, of course, Winkler was at his best that day, you know, and proved it again in the final. But that day in particular, I think he was even better, you know. He didn't get the goals, but scored 16 points to some goal. Like.
But there's a little bit in that.
The Ballycastle they were sort of past their best before I, you know, those games at Ballyhale, the one in Ballycastle, can't mind what it was, 81 or 82, you know. With any luck at all, they would have beat Ballyhale that day. You know, Kevin Fennelly was in goal for Ballyhale and with some great saves. And there were even a couple of times, you know, the ball bounced off him. Like Eddie was through and fired the ball high, and it just hit him on the shoulder and bounced away. Like,
there's a little bit of you seems to enjoy going down south and beating them down south, and maybe especially because they're sort of been a little bit condescending towards.
Well, very much so. Yeah, very much so. Because, and even the press down there, you know, still the steam. You know, it's always, and even to the extent where Loughnane was for a year or two making suggestions that the whole thing would have to be looked at. One of the times that Dunnoy got a bad hammering in the final, saying, no, this will have to be looked at, you know, there should be a backdoor system again. More or less, they didn't want the Ulster teams playing in it. And yet, you know, we still, like Cushendall were there in 2016, like, you know. And of course, then when Cushendall beat Sarsfields in 2016, oh, that was the worst team ever to come out of Galway. You know, you get no bad teams coming out of Galway Club Hurling, I tell you. You know, that was another great day, you know. And unfortunately, they come up against the Piercic in the final, who were an outstanding outfit, the height of their powers at that time. You know.
So you really get involved in it, but at the same time, you're obviously having to like stay behind the lens and make sure you get the shots, but you're really involved in the game.
Yeah, well, it works against me at times, Jerome, because I do get so involved in it. Like 89, the second half against Offaly, I was so nervous, and I didn't go up into the end. Antrim were attacking. I stayed in the same place. I was so nervous at half time, and great shot, let's go and all. I missed them, but I was up throwing the camera up in the air when I went in at the other end. You know, 89 in particular, I was on the Antrim hurling board in 89, and I was closely involved with that team. I was with them a lot, and still close friends with most of them. You know. And that's a very special time to have been there. Like that whole period from 86 through to, I suppose, about 94, 95 when it tailed off. Like, great memories. And, you know, they beat most teams at that time. You know, at some stage, like 94, they drew with Cork and they beat Tip and beat Kilkenny. And, you know, and we met that Clare team in the quarter final. We would have been straight into the quarter final or the semi final that year of the league. Only Down beat us in Casement. And Down were brilliant at that time. They were a really good team and some great characters there, like, you know.
What about your photos from that time? You know, from, I mean, 89 obviously against Offaly in the semi-final, that was just like pure pandemonium, you know, for a northern team to go down and win was unbelievable. Then the final against Tipperary, I mean, can you take me back to how you were thinking in those sort of days, not as a board man, not as an Antrim man, but as a photographer, and what you got?
Well, again, my obsession with the whole thing about them doing well probably went against me, you know. But I have lots of good photos from that time, you know. But back then, you weren't using as good equipment or anything. Like, I remember hiring a 300 lens from Calumet in Belfast, you know, for the final that weekend, and got some half decent stuff. But compared to the gear you're using now, it wouldn't compare, you know. But funny, the homecoming on the Monday night and the Tuesday night, looking back at the photos of them is nearly better. And people that, you know, the hurling fans in Antrim didn't really care whether they were beat or not. You know, they were still heroes to them, and they turned out in their thousands to meet them. You know, and there's a few good nights, I must say.
But are there any photographs you particularly remember from that period?
Well, funny, I've been scanning a good few of them now in recent weeks, like, trying to get them 89 sort of sewn up so I can have it in a permanent to hand on, But no, a lot of those, they're one that on the Tuesday night we're going around North Antrim and we're going to Ballycastle, so went up through Armoy and come down past Clut's house. And of course, stopped outside Clut's house and they got him out. The mother came out and met them and all. And, a lot of the players got them up on their shoulders. Of course, there'd been a few beer taken at that time, and some of them maybe weren't in the great shape for photographs. We arrived down in Ballycastle, I think, about 1 o'clock in the morning and into the Royal. And it went on like maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. Like it was hard on the players, I'm sure after going through what they did on the Sunday, they felt like just going home and lying down for an hour or two. But in fairness to them, most of them turned out.
Imagine if they had won the thing.
Oh no! Well,
I mean,
that's on the Tuesday.
That's a homecoming without a cup.
Exactly. Oh, that's the thing. Oh no, God knows what it would have been like. But on the Tuesday night in Ballymena, I was there taking photos, and I was feeling a bit tired at this time, And Jack McCann, who was a famous raconteur from Ballymena, is Joe Brawley's father-in-law, actually. And he was a great storyteller, a great character. And I was saying, I'm a bit down about the whole thing and all. And he cut me by the shoulder. He says, look, remember one thing, Curly, you're recording history here. And it always stuck with me, especially when I got them out there and started to scan them again, But talking about 89, 91, Sambo mentioned it in his interview there he was doing a podcast with Anthony Daly there a couple of days ago. He mentioned the 91. I always thought the same. 91 Antrim played better than they ever played in Croke Park, even better than 89. And with a wee bit of luck would have beat Kilkenny that day. Just Eamon Morrissey got the goal in the first seconds, and that Sambo always made the joke that Ruggie was still standing for the anthem whenever Morrissey went through to score the goal. But and that was the difference in the end. It really was. There was 2 points in it in the end if that goal had been kept out. But we were much the better team at that day. Just shot a lot of narrow wides, if you know what I mean. Just we bet a drink of the ball till we would have got there,
There was another game in that period, if I can take you to it, maybe not one of the big games, but that jump out, but maybe it's something that you remember, 86, 87 against Kilkenny and Dundalk.
87 Dundalk, yeah. Oh, that was the first day, really. I had a post up about that last week, actually. I think it's the first day that Antrim fans started to believe, And the game should have been in Croke Park as a double header, of course. But because there was a minor match on before it, Antrim weren't good enough, regarded good enough. Even though in 86 they'd scored 124 against Cork. But Antrim tried to, we wanted Kilkenny to toss for venue, and they wouldn't toss, And so St. Bridget's Park and Dundalk was decided on as the venue. And it worked out brilliant because there was a good crowd there for that size of a stadium, Kilkenny hadn't many supporters there. They just thought they were going up to sort of sweep us aside. And there's a good support there, and the atmosphere was brilliant. And Antrim played really well. And again, a game we could have won. I think they beat us by maybe 7, 8 points at the end, but they all came at the end. We led up to 63 minutes gone. We were level, and then Harry Ryan, who was the standout man, scored a few great points. Danny McNaughton scored 2 of the greatest goals that day, doubled them on the edge of the square, flew into the net. But I think that's the day that really the journey started. In 86 in Croke Park, Sean McGuinness was in charge. They played brilliantly, but there was no crowd there to see it, if you know what I mean. But 87 changed all that, and from then on, uh, the following year they got one promotion into Division 1 and beat Dublin and Casement in the last game. And we started to organise buses, to go to the games down south. There'd have been maybe a couple from Belfast and a couple from Northampton went, and it was always a great out atmosphere. At that time when we got into Division 1, the one that stood out for me, I remember getting the Irish News on the Tuesday morning, and I'm getting a bit emotional here, seeing the fixture, Antrim, Kilkenny and Nolan Park. And
I remember it in the league.
It was just, and I remember us going down.
About 112 to 111 or something like that, but the one by a point.
Well, I think maybe that first year maybe beat us by a few more than that, but still.
There's one later they won.
It was that actual game just going there, and the fact it was Kilkenny. And I remember parking outside. We were down early and parked outside Nolan Park, and Joe Hennessy pulled up behind us in the coal lorry. And Joe Hennessy, one of the great halfbacks in Kilkenny ever, jumped out of the coal lorry with a kit bag with him, and I just thought this was something special, an ordinary man. You think a sport like we see the Premier League football and all these boys that are, coming in with their headphones on and they're wanting up near anybody, and yet, that's the great thing with the GA, the ordinary boy, the still ordinary men play it,
So he had the stick, a coal lorry with him.
Yeah, exactly. That was, and that's what made them even better in my eyes, But, no, that was a great out period. I have to say, I really enjoyed all them trips, and many a day would come home quite often, beaten and sometimes well beaten. But there was one we won twice down in Galway, and we won twice in Offaly, and we drew a tip down in Thurles, and we were outstanding. And a lot of people are very down on standard Antrim hurling at the minute. People don't really know the game. They don't know the effort that these boys are putting in and the much work they put into it. Antrim are hurling at a good level. Like most of the time, we were playing teams like Laois and Meath and teams like that. And everyone sort of laughing when Carlow beat us. Carlow was a really good team, and these boys. I'm so disappointed this season sort of fell away the way it did, because we were in a good place. We're in the league final. There was a few young boys coming onto the team, like Conal Connan and Caelan Malloy from Deloy, real superstars, I think, in the making. And, along with Neil and boys like that in the team, the real stalwarts, and Darren Gleeson, a great man in charge, Never thought I would say that about Tip man, but one of the best. Tip have actually been very good to Antrim in recent years, and Liam Sheedy and all have been excellent in supporting us. But no, that this year I thought I was really looking forward to the Joe McDonagh Cup and how we'd do in it, because there's some tough opposition in it.
Right, you're going on to talk about Antrim now, so why don't we talk about Casement and about the development of the game up here and what needs to be done to help those young lads, those young superstars get even better. What would you like to see done for the overall game of hurling in Antrim and in Ulster?
Well, Ulster is a sore point for me, I have to say. The way the Ulster Championship was done away with was, to me, a disgrace. All right, there wasn't big crowds going to it, and maybe down in Derry had slipped a wee bit, but they were still good competitive games, and the players themselves liked playing in them. Like through the 90s, Down came and won 3 Ulsters, and then at the end of the decade, Derry won 2000, 2001. Great teams, and Ulster hurling was in a really strong place at that time. But you always get the impression, I don't like being critical, because we have a lot of good friends in the Ulster Council, but hurling sort of was second-class citizen, to be honest. the Ulster Championship should have been kept going and, you know, kept at the time of the year it was played at. All right, Antrim taking part and Leinster maybe changed that a wee bit, but there still was time to get it played, you know. And, you know, I remember that 93, 92, down beat us first, you know, and 10,000 people at Casement Park. It was just brilliant. It didn't feel brilliant on the day, them beating us, you know, looking back at the great men they had. Like, it was super for them. And of course, the down men are close to our hearts because they play in our league all the time, you know. Portaferry, Ballygalget, and Ballycran have had it so much the Antrim leagues. It's just, it was great.
What would you bring from then, or what would you like to see happen now?
I don't really know. I'd like to see the Ulster Championship restored, you know, in some form. Get it played. It was just, you know, they play that McGurk Cup at Queen's at New Year, and it's good. It's good for teams, you know, that are preparing for the league and all the rest of it. But it's not really the Ulster Championship. The teams deserve to get playing in the summertime, you know, in good conditions. Whether that'll never come about or not, I don't know. I'm nearly glad to go out and see an under-12 match now, anything at all.
I know the feeling. And as I mentioned, Casement, what are your best memories of Casement, and you know, how important is it that we get it back as soon as possible?
Just Casement was a special place. I loved it. All them county finals and, you know, great games, you know, and great memories of it. And county games as well, you know. But I mentioned there the 92 final, the Ulster final. Like for a few years there, the Ulster final atmosphere was outstanding. Like, that was that was disgrace the way the whole thing was handled. You know, we should still have been playing away in Casement. You know, the way it was closed down was absolute disgrace. But hopefully we'll get the new one built. Whether it'll be in my time or not, I don't know. But it really should be built.
But there's certainly a lot of goodwill, and there's certainly a lot of great people in Antrim GAA right across the board, you know, from the chairperson all the way down. There's a lot of people wanting to try and make it happen.
Oh yeah, very much so, yeah. I'll tell you what we do have now, when they started work in Corrigan, you know, doing a stand there in Terracing there, which would tide us over the case when it does get going, you know. I'm not sure whether that has gone ahead or not, or whether it will go ahead with the current situation, but hopefully it will. Like, that would have been up and running for August this year, you know, for the semi-finals and finals, which Corrigan's another great ground, another great old buzz about it.
Going to go on to something completely different here. There's a photograph, Curly. You had a photo gallery in Antrim Castle Gardens a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
With your best photographs, and I think maybe other photographers, I'm not sure, but there was one picture I remember, and it was quite famous. The Down syndrome Waterford supporter consoling the Kilkenny player after the beating them.
Oh yes. Oh, that was actually Donald took that photograph. Right. It was the Munster final. Oh no, an All-Ireland semi-final replay, Kilkenny and Waterford. I can't remember now whether it was 15 or 16, but I was actually photographing a wedding up here. And PJ Amon gave Dylan a lift down to the game. And he covered the game for me. But I stopped, I got finished at the wedding fairly early, and I stopped in one of the hotels on the way down to Dublin. I was going to meet Dylan that night in Dublin because we're doing a game the next day in Croke Park. And I stopped and watched the game on TV. It was a fantastic match, the excitement at the last. And I saw that, and Sky highlighted that incident. And I thought, there'll be lots of ones with photographs of that. You know, that's a great photo. And PJ Mullen dropped Dylan up to meet that night to Dublin. We met up. And I said, you didn't see that thing in Sky, but getting a photo, Jennifer Malone. consoling one of the Waterford players. And he says, I got a photo of it. I was the only one got a photo. And he was too, you know, and it was well used after that. And of course, Jennifer, her mum, we've been good friends, and she actually came up to the exhibition in Clotworthy that time for the opening of it. And Jennifer has done a lot of photographs down there. She's a big rugby fan and a big hurling fan. Of course, to her, it doesn't matter who's playing. She's a fan, you know.
But
and
clearly,
at the time,
for Dylan, I mean, you taught him well. I mean, he looked out for that kind of picture. He knew to look out for that. Maybe you hadn't even explained to him to look out for that, but he'd seen you taking pictures like that.
well, I don't know whether that's something to do. He just, as a natural. We went to, he was only 14 and he shouldn't have been in near the place. I took him into Crook Park to put him into the stand. And the guy was handing out the bibs in, and they, you know, went in the press room, said, look, take him out in the field with you and sit beside you if you want, you know, if you're worried about it. So I took him out and I gave him a camera. I said, you better look as if you're taking it. You know, we'll be getting into trouble with Crook Park for this. But, and he took, Kilkenny played Galway in the World Cup final. And then Kerry and Dublin played in the National Football League opener just after. And I went home that night and looked at his photos, and he had a world of great photos. Just he had never held a camera in his life before. And then I started to take him along to the games with me, and he just had that. He got some great photos, you know. His most famous photo in the game, getting into trouble over it, was the one of the Waterford goalie charging down Nash's penalty in the Munster semi-final, where he ran out and charged him down, and that incident actually changed the rules for the penalty. I'm not saying Dylan's photo changed it, but he was the one who got the photo of it, you know. And the 20-metre free, they realised it was getting too dangerous, you know, when the rule was changed. You had to be outside the 20-metre line.
But again, that's shows a knowledge of the game, which is very important.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of that in it too, all right, definitely. Only one of my favourite photos was one in the previous year's All-Ireland final, 13 final replay. Because Kilkenny weren't involved, I couldn't get accreditation, you know, for the games, but I had a ticket in the upper deck of the Hogan. And I was just in line with the 20-metre line down in the canal end. And I had a great vantage point because where I was sitting, there was a concrete wall behind me. I was able to stand up and not block anybody. And I got a great photo of Nash taking the penalty, the one where the 14 men went on the line. And he was actually in, you know, on the 14-yard line when he had it. And that's one of my favourite photos over the years that, you know, I had it in that exhibition.
So it was that perspective up high that you liked?
Yeah, oh aye. Now, in the big game sports file, I've guys up in the top deck and they get some brilliant stuff, you know. That was just an opportunity I got by sheer chance, you know.
So you're always on the lookout for a photograph, no matter where you are, what you're doing. You're always
alert. I can't actually go to a game and watch it without taking photos, you know. Even those finals, like the Galway Limerick final, you know, I was in the lower deck of the Hogan, but I still had the camera with me, you know. I can't switch it off, you know.
It's like studying film, movies, and then you go to watch a movie and you're always dissecting it, and people beside you are going, "Would you shut up?" You know, just enjoy it, you know. But
and if you were a game watching it, you would think, "Hey, that would have made a good photo," you know. That would, I wonder, did he get that? And you know, it's just built into you. You know, I'm obsessional about a lot of things to do anyway. No, it's been a great journey. I've really enjoyed it. You know,
it's interesting you say that about obsessional. I mean, you know, it's part of your character. I mean, I'm trying to find out here as well who the real Curly is. You know, because there's a guy I listen to sometimes, Dr. Wayne Dyer, American. He's actually passed away now, but he one of his sayings was, "What you do is not who you are." So, you know, but that, I'm not sure that applies to you. Maybe what you do as being a photographer, maybe that is what you are, but there's other sides to, as you say, you're obsessional as well, and you're a family man, and that, I mean, do we know the real Curly?
Well, that's a good point, but that obsession will at times get in the way of the family life, and but wife Bernie and kids and all have been very good, and never objected to be going to anything like that, they're back me all the time. And times you think maybe I should be at home on a Sunday and instead of standing up and false park and the one whistling up your arse and the rain blowing. uh, but, that's the thing. Sometimes you'll go to matches. The big matches are brilliant, the buzz about it. And being there in Croke Park, like somebody said, press photography, it's like a sideline seat to the world. Like, being there on that day is a great buzz. But you can go to an under 12 match somewhere, under 14 game. Like this time of the year, we've been playing Fela finals up here, and they were just magical, decent wee crowd at them, and two teams. Those games meant exactly the same to them as the boys in Croke Park, playing in the All Ireland final. They're just fantastic. And of course, I've covered a lot of school games down the year. And that school thing, I've never really got the McCrory thing because we don't have schools in Antrim that are competing in it. But McGeehan and the hurling's outstanding,
What would be your favourite Antrim photograph that you've taken down the years? County level, club level, school level? Is there any particular one you've got that, I mean, I don't know if you put many pictures and frame them and put them up around your house because you've that many pictures, but is there anything that means anything to you? Significance?
There's none up around my house at all.
See that?
No, that particular one, the one the St John's Cushendall game in 2013, that would probably be the standout one, Oh no, there's lots of photos that I like, from the other, and those wee games, under 12, under 14, you get some great photos, great determination, and sometimes you get the best photos in a game like that. Or even a bad match, people will always say to you, you'll not get much there the day, that was rubbish. Sometimes that's the games that you get the best shots at, That's, say, luck plays a big part in it,
Here's an easy one for you. Who's the best hurler you've ever seen?
Well, that's very hard to pick out. But I would say between the two Kilkenny heroes, like, DJ or Henry, I think DJ on his day was more dynamic than any man I've ever seen. It was just magic. It's just Henry consistently did it brilliantly, though, time after time after time. But there was something about it, but DJ just had a certain magic about him, That's just, if I was really pushed to the limit, would probably go for him.
If I could put the question in a slightly different way, I mean, is there any players that maybe give you the most pleasure to actually take photographs of because you knew they were going to do certain things or they moved in certain ways, or as you say, they were dynamic or whatever, or graceful?
Well, Tommy Walsh, would always be, because he was always 100%. And he'd be right up there too. Like, there's a lot of boys in that great Kilkenny team that would be, JJ Delaney is probably the best defender I've ever seen. Without a doubt, consistently brilliant. Tommy, one of the all-time greats. But of course, lots of great men in Antrim as well. Like, Gary O'Kane went up there with the very best of them. And funny thing about Gary O'Kane, he was so quick in the ball. He didn't dwell on the ball. He was the hardest man to photograph. You never hardly get a good photo of him when I was taking them back then, because he got the ball, it was away before you get focused or before you end it. But he was top man.
I can imagine you having a great rapport. Well, I know you have a good rapport with all the players, but I can imagine you saying to Gary, would you hold on to the ball a bit longer, like a shot of you?
Maybe when I was photographing when he's playing, maybe it's just as good a rapport with him. Oh no, he was a special player. There are lots of them. There's so many. Anybody that plays county level is a good hurler, a really good hurler. You have to respect every one of them.
Is there a picture? Is there a picture that would describe hurling to say somebody who'd never heard of hurling?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That wasn't my question. I have to admit, somebody gave me that. It was a good question, all right. I can't remember who it was, but I asked a few people, and that one came up. It's a good question. That somebody arrived from the moon, or
yeah.
part of,
I remember a friend of mine who was years ago. A friend of mine was in Canada, and he sent me home a clip out of a newspaper about a Canadian journalist who went to see hurling. And he said it was a cross between hockey and the Second World War. So at the time that maybe summed it up pretty well. But the game of hurling is much cleaner now than it was then. Back in the 60s and 70s, you don't get the same rough house as you did. Thank God,
You sound disappointed.
No. Oh no, I'm always on for the skillful hurler every time. But there's plenty of great skillful hurlers. There's still tough men as well. Tommy Walsh sums up pretty well.
You mentioned earlier on a couple of newspapers and things. Your own career has gone in a different direction, which was just a sign of the times, I guess. I mean, when the Antrim Post newspaper closed, and then you set up the Saffron Gale.
Saffron Gale website, yeah.
Can you tell us?
Always a thing I had in mind I would like to have done, And when I was made redundant with the Ballymena Times, and can't remember, about 6 years ago now. And I just started then I was doing odd stuff for the County Antrim Post anyway, and I started a bit more with them, and it was a great going wee paper, I must say. Did great coverage, and like a lot of others, they went to the wall. Just that's the same as the crowd I've been working to before. And funny enough, 3 years ago this week, I started up the Saffron Gale. I had it in my mind for years and years. If anything happened, I would like to do it, and I seen it was moving more towards that sort of thing. So my brother Paddy, who had been working for the Wee Chronicle, I tell a lie, I went back to the Chronicle for a while after the County Antrim Post closed, and then the Chronicle closed. The whole Malins group all closed down, and then Paddy said he would, like to go along with me and start it up. The first game we did was the Loyal and Lockheed Under-21s Championship Final, May 2017. So sometime this week, I think, would be the 3rd anniversary. And it's gone well, It's we have good following, and people have supported as well, with a few good sponsors on board, a few good boys that work to us. Was it Brent McTaggart and Sean Paul McKellar takes photos, Cal Hull takes photos, Paddy. Boys have been really good to us, and it takes a few pound to run it. Boys need to get expenses of that for going to things, but so far we've kept our head above water. There's no fortune in it. I just do it basically for the love of the thing. Run the car out of it, and that's it. But we've saved a lot of money in the last 3 months or 2 months. I haven't had to fill the car 3 times a week.
Have you started up bird watching or taking photographs of birds or anything? Or have you just left the camera?
I left the camera off, no interest, and I lost all interest. The odd time, if the grandchildren come up maybe in the garden to see us, I would take a photo of them, and that's it. I haven't taken very much. When I photographed the moon one night, the last time it full moon, but that has probably gone down.
You're getting desperate.
I'm never into landscape or anything like that. It all had to be people.
I know. God no. Just to finish up, Curly, I think you more or less sort of summed it up nicely there yourself. I mean, you've survived all these years, the different changes in the business, all the way back from the darts right up to what you're doing now. And, you mentioned the love of the game. And it's not necessarily about making a fortune, but it's the people, it's the experiences that you have.
Much.
That's the legacy.
I have always been the world's worst businessman. You know, I've no head on me for business whatsoever, you know. But I've managed to get through, and, you know, there'll be enough here to do us now for, hopefully we get back out and running again and get the Saffron Gale up going again, you know. We still post stories on it every week, you know, looking back at certain matches, and that's good too. But, you know, people like to see the fresh stuff. And
But
everybody's yearning.
you're as comfortable at an under-12 game as you are at an All-Ireland final, and
Oh, very much so.
you know.
And although hurling and camogie are my main loves, you know, I still enjoy covering club games at Gaelic football as well. I would go out and photograph a bad football match any day now just to get out.
What I often say about you, Curly, is, I mean, you tend to, well, we put it this way, you sort of blend into the background. You know, you don't come in the blaze of glory. You're the sort of guy who just likes going along and doing his job, and maybe that's the secret of a good photographer as well. You know.
Yeah, I think so. You know, you just be there, and, you know, you enjoy the buzz of the whole thing. And with the cameras you're using now, you're always going to get decent photos, you know. But you hope that certain days you go out, you'll get that one that's a wee bit special, you know. And you know, enjoy what you're doing. There's a lot to be said for that. Just a bit like yourself, only I don't get globetrotting the way you do.
I know you get to Kilkenny all the time.
Well, not as often as I used to now, but I still do. I would have been down, you know, this time for the first round of the championship, like, you know, Kilkenny and Dublin, Parnell Park. Always a great buzz and great. And Kilkenny, Nolan Park is one of the greatest grounds to go to. You know yourself, you go to all these, and you go, and there's stewards at these grounds, and, you know, you think you're trying to steal something or something, you know, think you're trying to get any folk notes. Nolan Park, always welcoming out, come on in, come up for tea at half time, you know, they're fantastic, you know. A lot of the club grounds in Antrim now treat you, most of them treat you very, very well, you know. One in particular I would like to highlight is a Hawkle. A lot of games in a Hawkle. If you don't come in for tea at half time, there's a girl who comes out with it to you and a bar of Twix, you know. And a cold winter night, that means a lot.
I was going to say you're satisfied, but I mean, on a cold night, maybe.
Oh, like that. That's for, you know, great camaraderie with all the people in the different grounds around the country, you know.
Well, from now on, at every ground you go to, you're going to get a cup of tea and a Twix.
Well, the shape of me, I think maybe a few less Twix would help me, but no, it's good. It's good and well looked after.
Brilliant. And so you should be.
You're royal.
What's that?
I say I look forward to getting back to it again.
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone look forward to seeing your pictures too. Curly, John, thanks a million.
Thank you, Jerome. I really enjoyed it.